Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the Director, thank you. You've made yourself regularly available to this committee, and as a member, it's very helpful, and we appreciate it and appreciate your service. I want to talk a little bit about geolocation, metadata, and specifically the Jones case, which is a Supreme Court ruling where they ruled 9-0 that a GPS device placed on a vehicle for an extended period of time was an unreasonable search. Geolocation is broadly defined as using a GPS device or triangulation so that you can tell the specific whereabouts of where a particular phone is. Could you help me define what metadata is? Because what we've seen in the news is that the metadata category is the simple telephone number, where they're calling, and how long they're calling. Can you help me define what else is in the so-called metadata category?
Well, in the case of emails, it would probably be header information. I think people would consider
what about specific
addressing information, but not the subject line, for instance. That would not be metadata. In terms of the telephone, it would be that which you articulated principally.
Would it include geolocation information?
That's a question I'd have to get back to you on. I had not thought about that.
We submitted in advance our questions that we were going to ask here today, in part so I could have a candid dialogue with you. We were very good at providing the questions that I was going to ask.
No,
with all due respect, sir, you're the director of the FBI. You've been there for 12 years. You had to have think post-Jones, what are the implications of the Jones case? What is geolocation and how does it apply?
Absolutely. I mean, we have been, after the Jones case, we have taken, and the Jones case can be applied to a number of ways that we utilize geolocation. In each of these different ways, we have taken the most conservative approach because you don't know what is going to be the progeny of Jones. On the particular question of whether or not geolocation is metadata off the top, well, I shouldn't do it off the top of my head. I have to make certain that I look at that one.
Is there a database of geolocation information that is warehoused by our federal government?
Not that I'm aware of.
Post-Jones, there has been guidance given by the Department of Justice to the FBI. I would love to see that information and share that. I've seen 2 unclassified documents that were through a Freedom of Information Act. Is that something that you can share with this committee?
I'd have to look at that. But if it's unclassified, internal, then I'd have to look at that.
All right. I guess what I have a problem is this phone right here, the federal government has no problem following this phone, who I call. If I call my 12-year-old daughter, the telephone number I called her on, how long I had. But the geolocation is something that I have a bill that I've sponsored that would record, that really basically categorizes geolocation as content as opposed to metadata. So if you're going to follow what this telephone number is, where it is that or is that not content?
Yeah, I think that's I'll tell you, I think it's a very difficult question, and I'd want to think about it. It can be metadata, it can be content, and it may depend on the circumstances.
But is there a database that anybody knows of that
I do not know of a database that specifically is addressed to geolocation, apart from anything else, other investigative activity that is solely a geolocation database.
Post-Jones, does the FBI believe that there should be a lower or different standard for law enforcement to access geolocation information from smartphones or other mobile devices than the standard for attaching tracking devices to cars under Jones?
I have to get back to you on that. I apologize. I can see you gave the questions, and I did not get briefed on. That's my own fault. We're getting briefed on the questions, so I'm better able to answer them.
I appreciate it. And, Mr. Chairman, it's terribly disappointing to come to this point, talk about something that is in the headlines of every newscast. I gave the questions in advance.
And they noted that I would be asked on that, I might add. So it's my fault.
Your staff did some good work, I guess, but it's terribly frustrating, sir. You're the head of the FBI. You're the director of the FBI. This is not... this is an important discussion and dialogue, and I know I won't get an answer, and that's the frustration.
I will be happy to meet with you after I've had a chance to review the questions you have and the answers that you need.
What would be a reasonable time frame for me to start to call foul and say, hey, where's this information? Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.